The Subaru Outback has been kicking around for 3 decades, and folks still can't decide if it's the ultimate do-it-all wagon or just a slow crossover with hiking boots. In 2025, it's packing comfort, space, and standard AWD, but it's also dragging along some weak spots you need to know about before signing the papers. Hello everyone, this is Scott from CarlandTV. It's time to hop in the front seat because today, it's all about breaking down the real pros and cons of the 2025 Subaru Outback, so you can figure out if it's worth your money or just better left on the lot. But first, do me a quick favor. Tap that subscribe button and ring the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. It ain't required, but those clicks keep this thing rolling and make it easier for me to keep dropping solid car content straight to your screen. Now, let's get back into it. Wagon DNA in a SUV world. I'm starting with what the Outback actually is in 2025. It's a 5-seat wagon with standard all-wheel drive, a tall ride height, and the kind of cargo space families actually use. You get 33 cubic feet behind the second row and about 76 with the seats folded. The ride is calm and car-like because it is a wagon first, not a truck. That is the appeal. It drives easily in town, tracks straight on the highway, and still has enough clearance for rutted trails and winter slop. Power is simple. Most trims run a 2.5-liter flat-4 rated at 182 horsepower with a CVT. It is built for comfort and economy, not speed. If you want more pull, Subaru offers a 2.4-liter Turbo 4 at 260 horsepower that cuts the 0 to 60 time into the sixes while keeping the same CVT and all-wheel drive layout. On fuel, you are looking at a combined range of 23 to 28 miles per gallon, depending on the engine. Both versions have returned about 28 miles per gallon on long highway loops in independent testing, which is useful if you road trip. The cabin is straightforward. Materials are clean and durable, and higher trims can feel near luxury without luxury pricing. The premium trim remains the value play with the 11.6-inch screen, heated seats, and useful convenience options. For 2025, Subaru sweetened the Limited with a sunroof, a heated wheel, driver attention monitoring, and navigation. Pricing runs from the low 30s to mid-40s. That sets the table. Next, I'll break down the standard all-wheel drive and what the ground clearance really buys you in bad weather and on dirt. All-wheel drive, all the time. Here's the thing about the Outback. Subaru built its whole reputation on all-wheel drive, and this wagon is the poster child for why it works. Doesn't matter if you're looking at the base model or the tricked-out Touring XT, every single one of these comes with symmetrical all-wheel drive. You don't have to tick a box, you don't have to spend extra. It's just there, and it's damn good. That's why you can't drive through Colorado, Vermont, or Minnesota without spotting half a dozen of these on the road. Folks trust them when the weather gets ugly. Ground clearance is another piece people don't talk about enough. You're looking at 8.7 inches on the standard setup, which is already more than most crossovers. Step up to the Wilderness, and Subaru cranks it up to 9.5. That's truck territory. It might not look like much in the parking lot, but when you're plowing through unplowed snow, trying to get to a trailhead, or bouncing down a washed-out dirt road, that extra inch or two is the difference between cruising through and getting hung up. Now, nobody's saying the Outback is a Jeep Wrangler. You're not rock crawling in Moab with it. But that's not the point. The point is, it covers the stuff real drivers deal with: snowstorms, muddy ruts, sloppy spring roads, without making a big production out of it. And the best part is, you don't even notice it working. The system just shuffles power around and keeps you moving. That's what keeps people coming back to Subaru. Chill cruiser, definitely not a speed demon. So here's where folks start arguing about the Outback, and that's the engines. Subaru keeps it simple. You either get the 2.5-liter flat-4 with 182 horsepower, or you cough up extra for the 2.4-liter turbo that bumps you up to 260. On paper, that base motor looks fine, but once you're behind the wheel, it feels slow. You're looking at 8+ seconds to 60, and with the CVT hanging on for dear life, it can sound like the engine's working harder than it really is. For just getting around town or cruising to work, it'll do the job, but if you like a little punch on the highway, it's not going to impress you. Now the turbo, that's a different story. It brings torque, which is around 277 pound-feet, and that changes everything. You can tow 3,500 pounds instead of 2,700. You can merge without planning a week in advance, and you cut that 0 to 60 time down closer to 6 seconds. Same CVT, but the extra grunt makes the whole setup feel more relaxed, less strained. Fuel economy is where you trade off. The base motor pulls 26 city and 33 highway, while the turbo dips to about 23 and 30. Both still return 28 mpg in real-world highway testing, which is solid for something this size. If you're after efficiency, the base works. If you want confidence pulling into traffic or hauling gear, the turbo is the play. Cabin, comfort, and cargo hauling. Step inside the Outback, and you get why people keep buying them. It doesn't feel cramped, it doesn't feel cheap, it just feels easy to live with. Up front, there's plenty of head and shoulder room, and the back seats give passengers almost an inch-and-a-half more legroom than the old generation. For a wagon, it's surprisingly roomy. Families like it because you can toss 2 kids in the back with all their junk and still have space to spare. Cargo is where it really shines. You've got 33 cubic feet with the seats up, and fold them down, and it jumps to about 76. In a pinch, that's enough for bikes, camping gear, or even a Home Depot run without needing a pickup. When Car and Driver tested it, they managed to squeeze 11 carry-on bags behind the back seats and 23 with them folded. That's serious versatility. Interior quality sits above the mainstream crowd. The premium trim gets you the big 11.6-inch touchscreen, heated seats, and a power driver seat. And honestly, that's the sweet spot in the lineup. Higher trims like the Limited or Touring start adding stuff like leather, heated steering wheel, ventilated seats, and even a Harman Kardon audio setup. It isn't Audi-level luxury, but for the price point, it's damn solid. So yeah, comfort and cargo aren't the problem. Subaru nailed those. The question is, does all that value outweigh the quirks that show up in long-term ownership? Safety tech that's actually standard. Every Outback you buy in 2025 comes loaded with Subaru's EyeSight system. That's adaptive cruise, lane keep assist, automatic emergency braking. All the stuff a lot of brands make you pay extra for. Subaru just throws it in standard. Blind spot monitoring and rear cross-traffic alert kick in once you climb trims, but the core safety gear is already baked in. That's why year after year, the Outback ends up with IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus ratings and 5 stars in NHTSA crash tests. Families notice that, and honestly, it's a huge reason these things dominate in states where safety matters more than speed. Now, let me be real with you. Subaru's driver monitoring and lane centering can feel a little naggy at times. It'll beep if you drift. It'll bug you if it thinks you're not paying attention. Some folks love that, others hate it. But in the big picture, it's keeping you honest behind the wheel. And it's one of the better systems in the segment for consistency. The tech package is usable too. Even the base car has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Step up to the premium and you get that big 11.6-inch vertical touchscreen. It's not as sharp as Mazda's or Toyota's newest systems, but it's simple enough that you're not fumbling through menus while driving. And Subaru kept real knobs for volume and tuning, which sounds small, but man, you'll thank them every time you reach over in traffic. So safety is locked down, no question. The bigger question is what it actually costs to live with an Outback day to day. Cost of living with one. Let's be real. The sticker price is only half the story with the Outback. Subaru has it sitting in the low 30s to mid 40s, depending on how fancy you go, which puts it above a base CR-V or RAV4, but still way under anything wearing an Audi or Volvo badge. That middle ground is exactly where Subaru likes to play. Gas mileage is solid for something with standard all-wheel drive. The base engine can hit 26 inches the city and 33 on the highway. Even the turbo manages 23 and 30, which is respectable for the extra punch. Independent highway testing shows both averaging right around 28 mpg, so road trips aren't going to drain your wallet like a full-size SUV. Where Subaru doesn't wow me is its warranty coverage. 3 years, 36,000 miles bumper to bumper, and 5 years, 60,000 on the powertrain. No complimentary maintenance, no extras. Toyota will toss in oil changes. Hyundai gives you even more, but Subaru leaves it up to you. Annual upkeep runs higher than a CR-V or RAV4 too, especially if the CVT needs servicing. On the flip side, Outbacks keep their value better than most. Try selling a 5-year-old Outback, and you'll see, folks still line up for them, even with miles. That strong resale cushions the ownership costs and makes the math work out in the long run. Who the Outback fits in 2025. So, where does the Outback land in 2025? Well, I am still firm that it's one of the few wagons that makes sense for everyday Americans who want something practical but a little tougher than a typical crossover. If you live in a place where winter actually means snow on the ground, the standard all-wheel drive and ground clearance make this thing an easy yes. Families like it because it's roomy, it's comfortable, and it doesn't punish you at the pump. Add Subaru's safety record on top, and you see why it's kept a loyal following for 30 years. But you've got to be honest about the trade-offs. The base engine is slow, the CVT doesn't inspire much confidence, and Subaru still hasn't jumped into hybrids, which leaves it looking dated next to Toyota and Honda. Maintenance isn't outrageous, but it's not class-leading either, and the warranty is bare bones compared to rivals. Those are real drawbacks that buyers should weigh before signing. Here's the way I'd put it. If you want an SUV that's fun to drive, look elsewhere. If you want a bulletproof hybrid, you'll find better options in a RAV4 or CR-V. But if your priority is safe, steady, go anywhere, reliability in a wagon that'll haul the family and still feel planted in a snowstorm, the Outback still checks the box. It's not perfect, but it doesn't have to be. It just has to do the job, and in that lane, it delivers.